Hello, everybody. For everyone just tuning in to this series, my name is David Serpa, and I am reading my audiobook, Unmasking Asperger's Syndrome, All the World's a Stage, Unmasking Asperger's Syndrome, or High Functioning Autism, or Autism Spectrum Disorder, or whatever it is that they're calling it. I tend to be a little long-winded, and I am just updating you here. This is the link in order to order the digital and print copies for the book, All the World's a Stage, Unmasking Asperger's Syndrome. And I want to let you know that the audiobook is coming. The audio files have to be converted from mono to stereo. I know how to do that now. It's just a little bit tedious. So I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate the support. I'm more than happy to help and to talk to anyone that I need to talk to in order to help them understand themselves or a loved one. I'm very happy to do that. This is the whole reason why I have written this book, and I'm reading it for Autism Awareness Month. So I'm going to get to chapter 5 of my book, Masking and Autism. Chapter 5, Masking and Autism Spectrum Disorder. Masking, presenting a different version of yourself to the world in order to elicit a desired response. There's a massive debate in the ASD community, to mask or not to mask. The people that are for masking are encouraging the person on the spectrum to adjust to the world. The people that are against masking want the world to adapt to the person on the spectrum. I believe that there is a balance. As much as I would like to believe that the world will suddenly be aware of Asperger's for all of my little weirdos out there to have an easier go at it than I did, the truth is that it may not happen. In many cases, we will have to make do with the world that was passed down to us and hope not to get burned alive by it. Society doesn't do well with people that have a strong sense of justice, like to see it carried out, and are uncompromising. We don't like people that bring innovations out before our time. We don't like people that challenge the status quo earnestly with the desire to move forward from it. We nail them to the cross, we burn them alive, and we make fun of and push them in hallways. We live in a world that enjoys its caste system, and going around and calling everyone out all the time makes very few friends and plenty of enemies. The why-notters of the world piss us off and push us forward. Can you think of a few reasons why someone might dislike a person who doesn't care about money and won't abide social injustice? As much as we pretend to be a country that enjoys our Hortons that run off to protect our little who's that need protecting, the who's are often being benefited off of significantly by the haves and the Wickersham brothers. In the children's book, Horton Hears a Who, we see a big elephant, Horton, who has big ears to hear tiny who's, tiny little people living off of a ball of fluff. And these tiny little people are so tiny that no one knows that they exist. Horton goes on protecting and talking to his who's, and the world can't leave him to do good for these tiny people. So led by the Wickersham brothers, they tie up Horton and threaten to dump that dumb speck in the bezelnut oil. In the story, at the last moment, the who's are saved because they are heard. And I hear you, Aquamarine, I want both as well. In the story, at the last moment, they are saved. All over the world and in this country, there are who's living at the whims of the people that don't care to know they exist and or bully them just to bully them because it is what they've been taught. It's idealistic to believe that all the Wickersham brothers will take the time to understand the anguish that willful ignorance causes. You can imagine, as a big Horton myself, I can get extraordinarily tired thinking of all the who's that aren't heard and are being used by the haves. The haves are my own addition to the story, and they control the export of the who's and keep them on their fluff balls. My job as Horton is to address the Wickersham brothers, to enlighten them on all fronts, while protecting my who's, teaching them to become the haves, and trying not to get myself tied up in my own story. It's not an illusion of grandeur. Horton is saved by the who's when they all stand up together. Everything would have been lost. So, how do the who's maintain being a who in a world of Wickersham brothers that don't hear them, don't understand them, and like to destroy what is different? we spread who awareness, and we teach who's to become Hortons, or simply help them to enjoy being who's and being able to enjoy their small corner of whodom. I think it is important to learn how to mask. Call it presenting if you must. Masking can be something as simple as trying to appear better than you are doing internally in order to make someone else comfortable. Is it better for a 33-year-old man to rub his fingers together a few inches in front of his ears, or is it better for him to lean forward for a moment and pretend to have a headache and then rub his ears with his hands to pretend like he has a headache? It would look weird to people if I rub my fingers next to my ears, even if I'm blocking out the noises from the room and giving my ears something to listen to so I'm not irritated by an external repetitive noise in a room that I can't control. It looks less weird if I put my elbows on the table and rub my ears for a moment and pretend like I have a headache or an itch. I'm going to give you a controversial comparison and compare presenting to going out when you are on your period. For men, you'll have to suspend your disbelief. You made plans to go out 3 weeks ago. The world knows you are going out. You even marked going on Facebook. The time comes, and so does your period. You are bloated, and you don't want to go out. You want to stay inside and binge watch Friends and eat comfort food. Your stomach is now bothering you, and you're a bit of a grumpy mood, and you don't know why. It is completely unjustified, and it may be hormonal, but Ross and Rachel just broke up, and you don't want to dress up as a slutty ketchup bottle, even though your best friend is slutty mustard, because you don't look right in your costume. You haven't even put it on yet, because the next episode of Friends is going to start in 5 seconds, and it might make you feel better. This is what it is like a lot of days with Asperger's. Dressing up as a slutty ketchup bottle, even though you don't want to go out today. There is still totally a part of me that is still a slutty ketchup bottle, but tonight, just putting on the costume feels disingenuous. You put it on because there are expectations, and maybe you fall into a good mood, and the party's a blast, even though you can't have sex. You have that in the back of your mind the whole night. You can still enjoy the whole night, but as a slutty ketchup bottle that's on their period. Don't get me wrong, that's not every day. I'm not comparing that with masking. Part of my mask is that I don't wear a mask a whole hell of a lot. Let me explain. I sit however I want to sit, and it makes people uncomfortable. But that is part of their problem. It's their problem. I like to sit with my legs crossed. A lot of men have made fun of me my entire life because of this, mostly in reference to the size of my testicles. How could a person with big testicles possibly sit with their legs crossed? Clearly, the wider you sit with your legs apart, the more room you need for your massive testicles, and therefore are courageous and masculine and should not be questioned. Add it to part of my people are stupid conquest that I go on constantly throughout my life. I enjoy sitting with my legs crossed. I also enjoy sitting with my legs apart or lounging in a way that I'm comfortable in my chair. I will do whatever I want to do to sit comfortably when I'm talking to someone. Some people look at it as a power move. I just don't care about what people think about the way I sit. That is a battle I'm willing to fight by not fighting it. I also allow myself to wear headphones, and so it makes me comfortable, and I wear comfortable shoes when I go out in public. For some people, I probably look like a giant mentally handicapped person wearing New Balances and Beats. I don't care. When I know I'm going to have a long day on my feet, I don't wear dress shoes. I wear an Exosim brace, and it helps me stand up comfortably. The brace doesn't fit in cool shoes, so I sacrifice cool for comfort. I sacrifice me looking like I am slow with my headphones on in order to be around the world. I'll take the exchange. The problem with masking comes with the unawareness of the disorder, which I will get into later in this book. Living with ASD and not knowing you are ASD is extraordinarily isolating and painful for you and the people around you. The awareness is like being handed a guidebook for your life. Michael McCreary, who is a stand-up comedian with ASD that gave a TED Talk on Asperger's entitled, "Does This Make My Asperger's Look Big?" said that having Asperger's is like playing a video game, but not having the manual. With the right manual and the right awareness, we will have to mask less, but we should still mask. You cannot show everyone all of you, all of the time. The world is not ready for that kind of honesty. I was struggling pre-diagnosis and was recording music at my friend Andrew's studio in Los Angeles. I was crying while recording on one of the songs, and I told him, I am tired of always waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel. I was at the end of my rope. Andrew is an incredible friend, and he has been since high school. He tells me, you are the light. You burn so brightly that it scares people. He told me that I burn at a 12 and suggested that I turn it down to a 7 and give people the opportunity to lean in. This guy just got nominated for a Grammy. He's an unofficial life shaman of mine and has always been intuitively known. He's always intuitively known that I'm different. He's helped me in a lot of my life, as I think that I have also helped him in his. The advice was well received, and I carry it with me. We can share our lives with the world. We can be as honest as we want to be, but do it at a 7 instead of a 12 and give the world an opportunity to lean in. I believe that we find our peace by finding our place. We cannot be all things to all people. We cannot save or change the world, yet we have a responsibility to it. Your responsibility is to you. Be the microcosm of the macrocosm. Work on you, understand you, think about you and yours on an adequate level, and then use your excess energy to affect the world. This is the recipe for not living until you are old and alone or surrounded by people who don't understand you because you won't let them in close enough to work past your ability to control them in your life. Love is a reckless sort of challenging thing, and I will talk about that more later in this book. The more that we understand who we are in relation to the world, we will understand what makes us unique in our space and time. It's hard to know who you are or feel value in you if you are constantly aware of fitting in. So stand out. Know who you are and who you are not on your better days, and hold the standard to the best of your ability. If that is masking, that's fine. We can't go around crying on the days that we want to cry, or decide that we no longer want to go into the office and would rather work in sweatpants and long socks from home, only going out in house slippers to buy more cereal, Mexican food, and pizza, and then head back home. Trust me, I fought the presenting thing hardcore. I spent last year refusing to mask. I grew out my beard and my hair, and I didn't work to do either one. I wore whatever I felt like, and I said whatever I wanted to say when I wanted to say it, and I still allow myself that time, as Prometheus and Mama Fancy with the boot band, when I write music. The world is uncomfortable with a big bearded guy with wild hair, even in a suit. I was in Washington, D.C. for a few days with long wild hair and a big wild beard and a suit, meeting with politicians and advocating with the VA rep. And it was fun. I enjoyed working against the archetype and the judgment of people who did not think that I would be intelligent when I started presenting and backing up the talking points in these meetings. If I still had it my way, I would go around with a giant beard and long hair, working against the preconceived notions of stereotyping and forcing people to see me with their minds. I'm an idealist. The problem with the most of the world is that they make snap judgments and hold on to them. Even your friends that vote Democrat will judge people immediately by their appearance, but don't get uppity Republicans. The only way to step away from control is to vote Libertarian. But like with masking, you shouldn't tell people that you're a Libertarian because it sounds too much like liberal, and angry Republicans don't like that word. People tend to disagree with anything different or new based on principle. Someone told me when I was running for governor for a whole week, no one will ever elect a governor with a beard. Shave it. I told him, you have your pick of polished turds to choose from. Since then, I have become the president of our local VA rep chapter, and I've decided to shave my beard. My best friend Zach and my wife consulted with me on it, and at the end, they left it up to me, and I decided that I would make a better advocate for homeless veterans if I didn't look like one. When I trimmed my beard and got a haircut, I got 247 likes and 177 comments on my picture. It further illustrated my point that people want you to present an image that is comforting to them. It has nothing to do with your ideals or your principles. For me, as long as we are judging people based on their appearance, I would like to be as hard to look at as possible. But it was affecting my position, my career, and my ability to advocate effectively on behalf of veterans. So now I look tame again. It bothers me that people are so happy with my appearance, but I have to play the game if I want to affect change or provide for my family. And so I dangle my leg out and I sell out, and it's a little bit heartbreaking getting cheered on for it. I like the new look. It's distinguished, maybe still a little bit rebellious, but more accessible. But I also have disdain for the mask. I hate presenting to people so that I can be an effective advocate. We get the opportunity to paint whatever mask we want to present to the world, and our buffers often help us with how brightly we should paint the colors and how much of one or the other color to use. I'm using the term presenting, and I have been speaking primarily in the physical. The physical is easier to speak in. When I worked at In-N-Out, they wanted me to smile when I worked at the checkout line. I wanted to check people out as quickly as possible and get to the end of the line. I wasn't rude, but I didn't want to smile. I would rather be in the back skinning potatoes. When recalling the story to my wife, I told her a line that I always tell when we're telling that story. I said, I wasn't going to smile. I'm not their whore. And she laughed out loud. It was the first time that anyone had ever laughed at me for that story. It can be refreshing being seen for being a little bit outrageous. But then having her explain to me why it might be important to smile at customers. Whoring, masking, presenting, dressing up as the slutty red ketchup bottle even though you're on your period. It's clear I didn't outline this chapter, and it is also clear that this is not a children's book. In keeping with the analogy, if you've got that red light on and you're dangling that leg out there and you're lucky enough to get a bite, table talk is important if you want someone to use the ketchup bottle. We don't want to pretend that we're anyone that we are not, but we must feign interest from time to time if we don't want to come off as rude. Small talk is so extraordinarily boring. I feel like I'm going to fall off my chair after about 2 minutes. That being said, table talk is the only thing that's going to help a sad ketchup bottle feel attached to the world, and so we have to be accessible in conversation. Part of my mask that I have to keep on for a while is that I'm good with people. I am good with people for a limited amount of time in a small group or in a one-on-one setting, and then I must go into my cave for a little while to insulate. If I have had an extraordinarily long day, or if I've had a stressful experience, it can be harder for me to mask. It's harder for me to be willing to sit in on long meetings. My eye contact shifts and I start to come off as rude. Part of being a weird dude is having a spirit animal. Mine is a wolf. I'm actually wearing wolf socks today. I have my lone wolf moments, but I am a pack animal. Every wolf has its position in the pack when they are moving. Every position is important and checks in with the others. There are times to be a lone wolf and go into your cave or go out on a hunt. In our hearts, we are pack animals. We don't need the pack around us at all times, but it's nice to have people around us that know when you might need to check in. We get so lost in finding ourselves that we forget that we have the ability to create ourselves. Throughout my life, I've been told, you're not Superman. Well, someone should be. And if I can't be the Superman in my own life, who is? And even Superman needs the Justice League. Maybe you're Iron Man. You still need the Avengers. Doing it alone is lonely. You need to find people with special abilities that you lack. Even Superman had kryptonite and masks that he must wear. You just need to do what you need to do, but treat Asperger's and this book as a manual with suggestions. It's not a rule book. Cross out and fill in as you see fit. That concludes this chapter. Aquamarine says she wants both, referencing to what I said earlier in the chapter about a world adjusting to the person with ASD and the person with ASD being able to adjust to the world. You're providing accommodations for yourself, not really masking, but adjusting to your setting. I think part of masking is having a toolbox and practices and all this different stuff so that you can continue to put your best foot forward. And I think that is masking. Masking is putting your best foot forward. taking the average of who you are on your best days and then trying to hold up that line. And I think that that if all I am doing on certain days is trying to put my best foot forward so that I could be a better advocate for other people versus deciding, hey, you know what? I decided that I'm done for today. I'm going to go home and work on my book because I'm tired and I'm burned out and I'm sick of all you people anyway because everybody's so stupid. That is something that comes along with having autism. I will have these moments where I will say, oh, you know what? The world is full of a bunch of stupid flakes anyway, and I'm so sick of everybody, and I'm exhausted. But that's only part of the truth, because the other part of me loves people and loves to spend time around people. So in the moments that I'm extraordinarily frustrated with people and that I hate people or whatever, I have to remember that, no, that's not really the truth. I really do love people, and I really do enjoy people. And then things like stimming, choosing to stim or not to stim. When you're older, you have choices. Like I will push my hands together, or I will hold my hands like this, or I will sit on my hands. But a lot of times you'll see my legs shaking, or when I'm in an area that is overwhelming for me, I'll do this in front of my ears. But I make accommodations so that I don't look so negative and so weird to people that they can't handle me. And so I guess at the end of the day, it's all part of masking. It's all part of putting a better foot forward, being the best version of yourself. And it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. The truth is even as much as I want to mask, there are times that I can't. And there are times that I absolutely 100% burn out and I'm exhausted. And we're going to talk about autistic burnout later in another chapter. But it's an interesting debate. I'm 100% willing to have it. I'm also always willing to be wrong. But my answer with masking is that it is a healthy thing to do. At times, everyone masks at certain times, even if they're just going into work or going into school to try to make their life a little bit easier. If you are a little bit older, if you can work to be autistic, allow yourself to be autistic in ways that other people would not when they're younger, it will give that child an opportunity to enjoy their autistic body and be happy with their autistic mind later in life. If I can, as an adult, allow myself when I'm excited to do these things that I like to do when I'm moving my hands around, that just make me feel like I do this stuff and I move my hands around and I clench and it's just me being excited. It's part of me showing excitement. But for my whole life, I've worked so hard to not do these things when I'm excited. And if I can do these things when I'm excited or when I'm upset and allow myself opportunities to do this, I'm not saying always, but allow myself space to do this, it will allow space for a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old to not only be understood, but have compassion and sympathy for themselves. All right. I love you guys. I appreciate you chiming in. I'll try not to keep this video too long, and I'll keep another video coming tomorrow and the day after that as we continue to read this book live and on my Facebook page. You guys have a good day.